Good day, everyone. This is my 2003 Dodge Dakota. Just want to talk about water pumps and some of the common things to tell if they're failing. I mean, the most common is they start leaking. Go to the front of the truck and just look underneath, centered near the front of the engine. You'll get a typical pool of coolant down there. As you can see, I don't have that. No indication there, or else your vehicle is overheating. You might notice that. They do have the temperature gauge in the truck. Could just be some steam coming out from underneath the hood. That's pretty noticeable. Possibly some pulley noise, kind of like a grumbling noise, or it could be a high-pitched noise. Now, I didn't have any of that either. So I'm driving down the road, but my power steering seemed a little bit wonky. It was working fine, but it didn't seem normal. It had a little bit of jitter in it. I don't know, it's hard to explain. And then the next thing I noticed, well, not that I noticed, I heard, I should say. I could hear this banging and banging under the hood. And then, a little bit later, I look over and now my vehicle is not charging anymore and the power steering is gone. And at that moment I thought, oh, I bet my belt came off or broke. The reason I thought that is because I heard a little bit of banging when this all started. It sounded like something was hitting the fan. So I get home, I wasn't very far away, I looked, everything actually looked good under there. So I want to show you something on this one. So here's the fan here. So I'm, pulling on things, seeing if something's loose, because I heard some banging, like did something get in there, jam it up. And then finally I pulled on the blade here. So obviously the water pump, if you can see that moving, the shaft on the water pump is gone. And the banging that I heard, so it was moving back and forth and it started contacting on here. So, I could hear this bang, 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 just like that. So the reason I started losing the power steering is because there was a slight amount of fluid leaking. Not enough to make a big mess, but enough to get on the belt. And it basically lubricated the belt. So it was just sitting there spinning, not running my power steering, and I guess probably not running the water pump anymore either. So, okay, so while I have some light in here, I'm going to show you how to take off this belt. Well, I'll show you the initial stages. So down here, I have a 15 mil socket. If you can see that, this is why I say filming is not going to be that great. So anyways, I have my socket hooked up on there, and this is the tensioner pulley. So it's on the passenger side, front, facing the engine. And so basically I just have to lift up on here. And again, I can't really film this very well because my hand's going to be in the way, but you lift up, it releases the tension on the belt, and then you can pull the belt off. I'll try to set the camera here. I just don't want to drop her. So we'll try that. So just lift up, it loosens the belt, and you can just, oh, it takes a good lift. I'm just taking it off the top here. So yeah, the belt's off. There we go. Get my socket out. So I don't know how much you saw on that on camera, but that's how you do it. Okay, now you can buy proper tools for this, and you know what? I don't have any of the proper tools, and I can explain better once I get this out, because I would probably advise going to get the proper tool, because we need to take off this nut here on that attaches to the fan and the flywheel here. But in order to do that, you need something to hold this pulley. I will explain when I get it pulled out, but there's holes in it, and you can buy a little device that locks into those holes to hold the pulley in place while you spin this nut. Now, what I did, and you might not be able to see, but I found a hole, and I stuck an Allen key in there, or an Allen wrench, and I jammed it up against a bit of the engine block or a bracket there. And so that held it in place as I was rotating that nut. And I also didn't have, it's about, this nut is fairly large. I'm guessing it's about 1.5 inches. Of course, I didn't have anything for that either. So I had a pair of these spread out like that. I simply got that hooked on the nut like that. And I put a pipe on the end so I had some leverage. And it actually, surprisingly, it just took a little bit of effort and it cracked loose. And I can actually undo it now. So I'll get this out and then I can show you the pulley and what I'm trying to tell you there. But you can buy all the proper tools to do this. Then you don't have to struggle. But, okay. You can see my Allen key now there. I couldn't see it before, it kind of moved, but stuck in there, and it said I loosened that nut. And if you can, you might have to use a wrench on there. I loosened mine and now it's just turning off. I'm just spinning the fan actually. I just had this through a hole in the pulley and jammed into a corner, and then I could undo that nut. There's one more, there's a idler pulley that we have to pull off. I'll show you that, and then when I get it out, I'll show it to you. So we took off, this was the tensioner here. So again, passenger side, front end of the truck looking forward. And so that's the idler wheel that we took the tension off to get the belt, or the tensioner. Then there's an idler wheel down here, just sort of to the right. And we have to take that off because that covers one of the bolts for the water pump. And there's supposed to be 7 bolts, but we'll take it off and I'll be able to at least show you the mounting point so you know where to look. Okay, let's do that. Oh, I didn't think you'd be able to see it, but here I have my... So this is the just the idler pulley. That was the tension one. This one's really easy to take off. It's I think this is the same as, it's a 15 mil. I actually replaced this pulley once a long time ago. That's probably why it's coming off so easy. But yeah, I have to get my hand down there and finish loosening this off. I don't want to drop it. I can't do this one-handed. Okay, so all the bolts on the water pump itself are 13 millimeter. I went around by hand just with a normal, you can fit this in with a long socket. Went around, I broke everything free. In some cases I had to put a little bar on here to get more leverage. Some of them were pretty tight. And then following it up, I have a air ratchet thing here, which I'm telling you, probably a lifesaver, because it is pretty tight in there, and just like, you know, it's easier than going like this with your hand stuck down in the fan and that. So all of them came out fairly easy. So I'm on the last one. I'm gonna grab hold of the water pump so it doesn't fall and take out this last bolt. There we go. Anyways, I spun it around this way. It seems to come out easier. So we'll put it in this way. So, whoa. Ooh, I'm gonna have to check on that, boys and girls, because I think the bearings, looks like roller bearings. Anyways, they just fell out. I don't know if you can see that. And better make sure that didn't go anywhere. It shouldn't. But that's all there is to it. I'll show you the new one. So this is the new water pump that I picked up. It's a DAYCO. Got it for a really good price. Has a metal impeller. And what kind of got exciting for me, this one is very uncomplicated because you don't have to, there's no hosing, like the lower rad hose It's separate from this unit, so, and then on a lot of them, so you have a lower rad hose you have to remove, and then you have a bypass or maybe a water heater, smaller hose that you have to remove. This is just going to be so easy. The other nice thing I was pretty happy about, the gasket that comes with this one. It's not a paper gasket, and it doesn't just sit there flat, because those can be quite difficult to get on. This one is fitted. Pretty sure the wider end here goes down so it snaps in and holds in place. Yeah, it feels great. So this gasket perfectly fits in nicely, and it stays in. So that's awesome. Oh, what a bunch of racket around here. So yeah, isn't that going to be great? It's not going to fall out. You're not going to mess with it. It's going to be right in place. And I do have the other one off. We'll get into that, but they also had a good gasket in there. It wasn't paper or anything. There was no gasket sealant used. So the surface is nice and clean. So it's pretty much ready to go on. There's 7 mounting points. They're all 13 mil. There's 3 long bolts. We'll get into these in a little bit, but if you take it all apart and you're ending up, you're like, oh, well, where did all the bolts go now? I lost track where the long ones went. If you just leave this off and then go to slide them in, you'll be able to tell right away, because the long ones, they slide through an area first. So they go in a ways. You can't put them in the other holes. They won't work there. So if you forget where the long ones go, just do that test. The short ones are all the same, or they're all the same length. So there's 3 long ones like this. You might be wondering at this point, well, what's this Teflon tape on these threads for? So the long ones, you only have to worry about those. You can kind of tell where I think they used some a liquid sealant on this before, but it looks pretty clean. So you can use a liquid sealant, or you can use the tape. So you have to go over the top, and I'll explain why in a second. You can kind of see where the old stuff was. Kind of messed that up a little bit, but that'll be all right. And we'll just come up here on the threads. Okay, I'm gonna break this off here. And the reason you have to go a certain way, because when you turn these in, you're turning them clockwise, right? And if I wrap this the other way, if I turn it clockwise, it would start undoing. So you need it this way in the same direction. So as you come around, it won't lift the tape off the bolt. So there, we're all set. So look at the pattern. Just look at the pattern against the truck and on the pump here. So we're going to slide this into position. Very important. I mean, you're not going to be able to really see me doing stuff, but it's very important that you start everything by hand, and then you can get onto it with either a socket or some sort of power tool. Now, to get this in, oddly, I found you have to go reverse like this, and then you can manage to slide it past with a little bit of effort. There we go. And then we'll rotate it around. Alright, so I know one of the long ones, I know where they go, because I checked. Get a long one in. Okay, just holding it in place. So basically, I don't know, they go one opposite, one on the other side. Okay, so I have them all started by hand. I'm confident that they're threading in properly. Okay, before I continue putting these in, Okay, so let's get these put in. So I put the long ones in first, or I'm going to tighten those first, but not super tight. Be very careful. You just want to gently tighten them down at this point. Do the long one on the left, do the long one on the right, come up, and then do the other long one that's up on the upper left. And we'll start with that, and then we'll go around to the short ones. We want to tighten it up evenly so you don't bend stuff. So I did this one, the long one. Now I'm going to do the one over here. I'm actually going to turn the pressure down on this thing. Whoops. Oh. Shit. I don't use this thing very often. This was the lifesaver today. Otherwise it'd be taking a long time and not a lot of room to work with. Excuse me. Okay, so this would be the point where everything's snugged up. You go get your torque wrench if you have one, and keep going back and forth on the 7. Do one side, go down, go up, go down, go over, go down, and just keep doing that until everything feels you know, the same. If you don't have a torque wrench, just do them up snug. I don't think you could probably over tighten them with a short ratchet, given the space that's there. Just snug them up good and it should be fine. I'm gonna go around and test all mine, and oh, we have to put the idler pulley on also. Okay, so let me do that. I'll show you how to put the idler pulley back on and get the belt on. If I put the socket on here. And let's just snug it up good, tighten her, and then give it a little jab up. That should be fine. Make sure it spins nice. It's good. So this is the old pump here. And you recall when I was taking this off, so the problem is when you're trying to remove the fan blade, this rotates and you can't take it off. So what I had done, I took one of these, jammed it in there, and found a spot where it would wedge itself, whether it's in the housing here or up on the engine. You might have to find one that's the right length. If it's too long, it won't work. So same idea when I go to put the fan on. I'm gonna have to find a spot to get this jammed in when I'm tightening up the fan. However, I did mention you can buy a tool. So it's just sort of a thin wrench with a wide thing. It has 2 little pins that hold each side. And you can hold it out here, you know, and then tighten this up. So I would suggest getting one of those. The way I'm doing it is probably not the best or the easiest. It's not the easiest, that's for sure. But yeah, let's go ahead and get the fan on the new one. And just slide down here. So right now I'm just have it lined up on that center nut. So I have the fan on here, and the way I'm started, I'm just holding the fan, and I'm actually right now I'm just rotating this to get it started. Okay, so basically it's seated now, it's all the way in, and it's just gonna need a little bit of a tightening. So I'm going to have to find a spot for my Allen key here, or whatever you're going to use. Okay, I think that's going to hold it. You don't have to just give this a snug up. It's not going to come undone, just the way the rotation works in there and everything. I just have to get my wrench. As I say, it's not going to come off. Oh, we have to get the belt on now. Alright, let's try to get this belt on. 4.7 liter Dodge Dakota 2003. Diagrams on the front here. If you don't have the diagram, look it up online. So we're going to start over top the air conditioning pulley. So put that over top. Go around the tensioner, over top the idler. You go over top. Okay, I kind of have it underneath the drive shaft now. With a little finesse. I just can't see. I just can't fit my arm down there to grab it. Okay, I think I might have it. So I think it's on the crank. Needs to come around the power steering. And it's important to make sure that oh, there's a train there. I don't know if you can hear it on here, but anyways, you have to make sure all the grooves of the belt are lined up with the pulleys. So I think generally looking pretty good. Okay, so we're going to end off at the alternator. But of course we can't fit it on there because we need to get out. I found a proper pry bar for the tensioner, and so let's give her a shot. Oh, I hope this is gonna go on. Okay, I have it over top. I just want to make sure everything's lined up. All right, all the grooves are good. So let's just gently put the tension. We'll release that. Get this out of here. So in theory, I mean, the belt should be good. It's on there. I'm just gonna start it for 2 seconds and see if it's spinning. All right, everything sounds good, and I did just replace the pump. If you recall, before when I showed this, you could move this fan like back and forth, like ½ an inch each way. It was hitting on things, so that's good. Everything feels good. I'm gonna top it up with a little bit of radiator fluid and get her heated up, check for leaks. We'll see what happens.